Hello and welcome to Club 100's race day coverage from round 5 of our Premier Sprints Championship, and we are way out southwest of the Clay Pigeon karting circuit in Dorset. It's one of the best circuits in the UK, it's a classic and has to be on any calendar for any championship that purports to be a national championship. Anwar Burrell-Smith is managing to maintain a 10-point lead over reigning champion Ian Blake. Steve Brown, like Anwar, new to the class this season, is about the only driver who is safe in his position in 3rd place, as 4th through 10th are covered by just 10 points. Coming up, 2 heats, points from which will set the grid for a championship scoring pre-final. That'll be followed by a trophy final, where the driver's fastest lap times from the preceding 3 races determine the grid. That final also counts towards the championship, and the best 16 final results from the 11-round season will determine the 2015 Premier Class champion. The heat grids are random. In pole position, Jack Harding. On the front row with him, Freddie Gallagher. On row 2, Steve Brown, and Alex Ring returns to Club 100 action. Darren Teal and Chris Hansen on row 3, Jay Elliott, Scott Martin round out the top 10. It's a small grid, but it's perfectly formed. It's 15 to take this first start. While Club 100 are experimenting with slow run-ups to the start, Jack Harding controls the pace ahead of us. We're on board with Steve Brown, Union flag flies, and we're into the last corner. Well, it will be, because the finish line is ahead of us. 10 laps time, and Gallagher has grabbed the lead into Billy's blind, ahead of Harding, and everyone goes narrow into the long right-hander. Jockeying for position, now trying to swing in, and it's the right-left of the yeses. Oh, somebody's had to take a shortcut and the cones are sent flying. Everyone's still running. Not everyone's done the whole course though. Back on board here, we're riding with Ray Norris, looking for a way by. In the midfield, Chris Hansen getting a run on Jonathan Listener, but the road goes back in his favour out of the horseshoe. And Gallagher's got a few cart lengths on Jack Harding, who's under pressure from Steve Brown. Here they come across the finish line to begin lap 2. And Gallagher's getting away, and Brown's seen enough, he's down the inside. Now can he hold the line? I think he's going to have that position into the S's, 3 wide. Into the S's doesn't work, and it's Listener losing out to a few carts, including Lee Clackett and Tom Dix at the back of the field. Darren Teal pushing on Jack Harding. Alex Ring trying to go with him. Of course, the road then goes left, and Harding is easing Darren Teal out of the way. So Premier Class getting their elbows out early, and Teal leans in on Alex Ring into the last corner, and he goes through. And Jay Elliott, Scott Martin and Ray Norris close in, and we've got a group of 6 in the midfield. And look what's happening up front. Brown's getting away with Gallagher. Elliott launches one into Scott Martin, can't get it done. Into the S's, and it's Harding losing out now. Ring pushed to the edge of the track, but he's through. Martin covering off Jay Elliott down at the hairpin, and it's getting busy here, and we're only 3 laps in to this first heat. So Ray Norris now looking for a way by. Jay Elliott with the right-hander, it's flat. Just a dab of the brakes and then turn right and get your foot back in. They can see Darren Teal stretching away, and up the road Steve Brown putting Freddie Gallagher under pressure. We're on board with Norris as Elliott goes down the inside, and he's going to run Scott Martin out wide, and the gap opens up for Ray Norris. It's classic Clay Pigeon. So Norris moves up to 4th place, and Elliott's on the defensive to hold off Scott Martin further back. Anwar Burrell-Smith already set the fastest lap. That won't be the final mark, but it does put him provisionally on pole position for the trophy final for now. Very early days, of course. Some strange cambers here at Clay Pigeon. Very much an art to this track. Under Robo-Mick and out the other side. And Burrell-Smith down the inside of Chris Hansen. And he moves up to 12th place. And Matt Brooks has just moved Jack Harding out the way, put him on the grass. That's where all the dust is from. Harding still running. And we're back on board with Steve Brown, trying to run down and pass Freddie Gallagher. He's got to within a car length or so. And Matt Brooks is back through on Jack Harding, a bit cleaner this time. And Lee Clackett sticks his nose in and leaves Harding nowhere to go, and Burrell-Smith will be through as well. You can imagine the frustration building up in Jack from that exchange, and Brown is through to the lead. Well, it's been coming for a while, but he can't hold the line. It falls away on the exit there. A sort of crown on the road. The wide outside is not necessarily the fastest line out of the long right-hander. So Gallagher back in second, and Darren Teal joins in, and he's looking for a way by. He's wasting no time and just about manages to miss hitting Freddie Gallagher. So he's through to second place, and Darren Teal is on a mission. And Ray Norris would like to get across as well. So the field beginning to string out, settle down. A shake of the head there from Steve. He'll be back, I'm sure. So Darren Teal closing in on Freddie Gallagher, and Gallagher knows it's a different driver now. Through the S's, and Darren Teal is set to strike. Gallagher narrow, very narrow down at the hairpin, a little bit crossed up on the brakes. He'll be slow off the corner, and you can see the field is beginning to back up behind him. That wasn't the fast line, but it was the line that keeps the lead. Darren Teal takes a shot, a peculiar shot, and it misses, and Steve Brown is back to second. And Ray Norris now is on the bumper, and we've got a four-way fight for the lead. And fifth place Jay Elliott is not that far off. Scott Martin trying to get down behind the Nassau panel. Darren Teal going to try the outside. Through Billy's? I don't think so. And Ray Norris is through to third place. And this first heat is beginning to bubble up and boil. So Gallagher takes a look over his shoulder. So does Brown. Norris on the defensive to hold off Teal. And that should put Jay Elliott on Darren's bumper into the horseshoe. Just about there. Teal sticks his nose in again. Runs Norris out wide, and he's through to third place. And we're already coming round to start lap 9, onto the penultimate lap of this first heat. And it's been a good one. It's what we expect from Premier Class. And here comes Jay Elliott looking to the inside, down to the right-hander. And he's through, and he's holding that line, and he's going to pin Norris to the outside into the S's. And here's Ian Blake, the reigning champion, showing for the first time. He's worked his way up through the grid. He started in 14th, and he's just picked off Ray Norris for 5th. So these will be good points for the pre-final grid. Alex Ring side by side with Scott Martin behind Ray Norris. Coming round then to start the final lap, and this one looks almost in the bag for Freddie Gallagher. Steve Brown is 0.4 of a second off. Can't afford to make any mistakes though, Freddie. So Alex Ring on the defensive, goes narrow to hold off Scott Martin, but it doesn't work. He runs out wide, but he manages to get into the S's first. Martin takes a look over his shoulder. I think he knows the game's up. Alex Ring will probably have 7th here, unless Martin's got something left into the horseshoe. And Ian Blake is looking to find a way past Jay Elliott for 4th place if there's time. Darren Teal closing in on Steve Brown. But there's only one more corner to go, and then the drag to the finish line. Freddie Gallagher is going to win the first heat at Clay Pigeon ahead of Steve Brown, Darren Teal, Jay Elliott and Ian Blake. So 45 minutes have passed, and we flip around the first heat grid to form the second. Matt Brooks was last on the first grid. He's in pole position for this one with Ian Blake on the front row with him. Tom Dix and Ray Norris on row 2. Lee Clackett and Jonathan Lister on row 3. Anwar Burrell-Smith and Scott Martin on row 4. Jay Elliott and Chris Hansen round out the top 10. You can see your way all the way to the poleman from heat 1. Jack Harding on the back of the grid, looking for that Union flag. The pace car, thumbs up, is about to pull off. Control of the pace passes to Matt Brooks. Ian Blake will be looking to get a good launch here, see if he can tip in round the outside of the last corner. He can't, and Dix is trying to stay on Matt Brooks's bumper to get second place. And now it's a drag race up to the finish line, and Dix is through to second place ahead of Brooks, and it's got a bit too busy and a bit too wide, and Alex Ring was squeezed to the grass on the inside and lost control as his car bellied out on the curb. That's going to bring out the regrid flag. We're going to try this one again. Well, it's taken a couple of minutes to regrid the field, but we're in position now. The time lost, it's a tight schedule, means we've lost a lap off this race distance, so it's 9 laps, looking for the Union flag, and it's dropped, but it's a slow run up, and that probably favours poleman Matt Brooks. He's first into pit bend. Ian Blake has got on his bumper though this time. It's a shame for Tom Dix. He's been swamped by Ray Norris and is under pressure from Hanson and Lee Clackett and Scott Martin, and it's 2 by 2 through the long right-hander. The squeeze will be into the S's this time. Will they all make it through? Well, yes, they will. Oh, and Lee Clackett was close to the barrier off the corner, and it's get your elbows out down at the hairpin. It's getting a little frantic, and there's some pointing going on. I'm not sure if Scott Martin said talk to the hand there as Lee Clackett got his finger going. A few gestures of exasperation from the back of the field, including Burrell Smith looking to the inside of Lissider, and he's down the inside, and that's going to open it up for Darren Taylor. They'll have a drag race of their own. It's Brooks under pressure from Blake. He goes very narrow to hold Blake off. Is there a crisscross on here for third place? Ray Norris looking for a way by, can't get it done. Scott Martin and Tom Dix has got on his bumper as well. It's a long crocodile. And down at the hairpin, here comes Blake from too far back. And he's got his hands up. Now the clever thing is here is to let Brooks through, but not Norris. Can he do it? He's going to have to go the long way around the horseshoe. And he's going to make it work. And it's a chance for Brooks to make an escape. Jay Elliott to the inside of Dix. And Lee Clackett coming with him. Hanson trying to decide which horse to back, who to draft through Billy's Blind, the long left-hander. Then a quick dab of the brakes, turn right. There's not much in the way of braking zones here. It's quite technical, this track in its own way. Hanson gets pushed out wide off the S's. Even this hairpin is banked. You don't have to brake quite as much as you think. A lot of the corners are also off camber with a little bit of a crown on it. Not sure if that's by design or just to the age and the way that the ground has settled under the track. Anyway, it makes for interesting driving. But it's Brooks leading out. Ian Blake, Ray Norris, Jay Elliott and Scott Martin. We've got 5 away at the front now. Brooks on the defensive. It's going to open up for Ray Norris. Getting his elbows out, using a bit of curb. He's through into the S's. So I don't think Matt Brooks has got a particularly quick kart here, or he's not quite at home with it, as the field is closing up once again behind him. So lap 4 of 9. Darren Teal now behind Lee Clackett. Norris holds off Ian Blake and stays in second place, and this could be a chance for Brooks to get away. I just don't think he's got the kart for it. Norris getting his head down. He'll be creating a tour for Ian Blake and Scott Martin. Martin looking to the outside, Blake to the inside. That was late and hard, and it's opened up for Scott Martin, and he goes through. Freddie Gallagher sets the fastest lap. That will be provisional pole right now for the main trophy final. Burrell Smith on the defensive to hold off Darren Teal. The jockeying for position is on. How many points have you got? Where will that be for the pre-final? Can I get a good tour, get a fast lap in, set a good grid position for the main final? There's a lot of calculation going on here. It's not just balls out racing, although there is that as well. So it's Brooks. Martin looking for a way by, but Brooks goes narrow. He's going to try the outside line. Will it work? The crisscross. Oh, what a good move from Scott Martin, and he's through. And Blake's coming with him. Blake through to second. On board with Norris. Norris will look for a move down at the hairpin. Brooks knows he's there. He's going very narrow. There's some pushing going on. And I'm not saying the pushing's coming from Ray Norris, Lee Clackett. It could come back from as far back as Jay Elliott or even Burrell Smith. It's like handing out speeding tickets at the proverbial Indy 500. But here they come, and Burrell Smith going very narrow to hold off Jack Harding, but his wheels were inside. It's the same move that Burrell Smith pulled on Jonathan Lissider a few laps ago. I'm not sure he can really complain, but of course he can. It's Premier class. Harding moves up to 9th place, but for how long? Martin leading out Blake, Brooks, Lee Clackett. Look how narrow Martin's gone down at the hairpin. Surely he's going to be slow off the corner. But of course, Brooks is not close enough and is struggling to get with him, and Lee Clackett is inside at the horseshoe. Side by side, I think we can call that fair. And Harding and Anwar Burrell-Smith are going wheel to wheel, pod to pod. It's got a little bit personal, and Steve Brown's going through with Chris Hansen. Losing sight of what they're about here. They're losing time as they bang wheels. And it looks as though Ian Blake's looking for the win in Heat 2. Can Scott Martin hold on? Jay Elliott easing Ray Norris out the way, gives him a little bit of room. And Darren Teal does the pair of them. Well, that was hard racing, and Gallagher's gone for a punt down the outside into hairpin that hasn't worked. And Lee Clackett now is putting Ian Blake under pressure as Blake puts pressure on Scott Martin. And we're coming round to start the final lap, and I can't really decide who's going to win this one. Scott Martin is leading out. That might be the best place to be. Takes a look over his shoulder. And here comes Lee Clackett. He's going to go round the outside into the long right-hander. That's brave. Possibly even foolhardy, because it's not going to work. Ian Blake's having none of that. Not on the last lap, that's for sure. Down at the hairpin, and Scott Martin's got a couple of kart lengths now. This heat is going to go Martin's way. Of course, every position is a point gained, possibly another grid slot. So that move from Darren Teal on Matt Brooks could prove priceless. He had a good first heat. He could be right up the front for the pre-final. But it's Scott Martin who's going to win this one from Ian Blake, Lee Clackett, Darren Teal, and Matt Brooks hangs on to 5th. Well, the points have been tabulated from the heats, and the penalty points have been deducted, because there obviously are a few. Ian Blake is in pole position ahead of Darren Teal. No surprise to see that pair on the front row. They both had great heats. Freddie Gallagher and Scott Martin on row 2. Jay Elliott, Steve Brown on row 3. Ray Norris and Lee Clackett on row 4. Matt Brooks and Alex Ring on row 5. Championship leader Anwar Burrell-Smith is only on grid 13, and with Ian Blake on pole position, that could be a bit of pressure for the championship leader. So the pace car ready to pull off, tries to hold the field as long as they can. Ian Blake drops the hammer. It's a quicker start this time, and Blake's got the whole shot. Darren Teal pushed out wide, almost to the grass and the tyre barrier beyond. He's coming through in 3rd place as Freddie Gallagher moves on to the bumper of Ian Blake. Steve Brown, what a punt round the outside. He's got Scott Martin. Jay Elliott sure not to let him in at the S's, and no, he doesn't. And Scott Martin might be back at Steve Brown down at the hairpin. Brown takes a look over his shoulder. He's got it half covered off. And we ride on board with Chris Hansen. Burrell-Smith ahead of us. The race suit says it all. He's looking for a way past Tom Dix. Alex Ring side by side with Jonathan Lister now. The road will go back in Lister's favour. Ray Norris under pressure. Norris turns into the last corner, and Matt Brooks is through. He gave him an inch, and he's taken a proverbial mile. And it looks as though Norris is losing out to Dix, Anwar Burrell-Smith as well. And Freddie Gallagher fairly desperate to get that position back from Darren Teal. But he has got it back, down at the hairpin, takes a look over his shoulder, cuts across, almost weaving into the braking zone. Won't be winning many friends with that one, Freddie. Steve Brown under pressure from Scott Martin. Back on board here with Hansen. Norris is through, Harding goes through, squeezed out of it. Listen around the outside of Harding. This could be interesting to watch in the last corner. Harding giving Jonathan just enough room to stay on the track when they got to turn in, and look at the gap that Ian Blake's got. And this is not what Anwar Burrell-Smith will want to see. Ian Blake has been making pre-finals something of a speciality as the season is unfolded. And he's ready to pick up another win from one today. So down to the hairpin, and Ray Norris is on the bumper trying to pick up a spot from Anwar, who has made progress. I reckon he's in about 9th place. Matt Brooks holding off Scott Martin. Side by side, Chris Hansen losing out to Jonathan Lister. That's Lister through to 12th place. Anwar Burrell-Smith down the inside of Dix and running Scott Martin out wide. Was the contact there from Dixon Martin that's allowed Burrell Smith to get through, and Ray Norris has got a run on Dix. Oh, it's all a bit frantic and a bit late, and he is out of this pre-final. Heavy hit at the back of the field. Somebody's taken out the cone. One thing to know about cones, you hit them, you get a penalty. Jay Elliott is through to third place ahead of Darren Teal, and Steve Brown is on the wrong side to try and put a pass in on Darren, who holds it narrow to hold him off. And judging by the way he shook his head, I think Steve Brown has got somebody on his bumper. Well, actually he's got a couple of car lengths on Matt Brooks. And Anwar Burrell Smith is beginning to show in this pre-final. Remember, he started in 13th place. He's now in 7th. Hands up for a yellow flag being waved, and that is for Ray Norris, stricken at the long right-hander. Waiting to be pushed back into this final. You can't self-start these carts, they're just too goddamn heavy. So Jay Elliott holding off Darren Teal and Steve Brown in the fight for third place. And this is good for Freddie Gallagher ahead. Darren Teal with a long lunge down the inside, and he's done it. Can he hold it? Not quite. Jay Elliott tips it over the top, out of the horseshoe, and Brown is looking to the inside, forcing him over the curb, and it's get your elbows out, and that has played into the hands of Anwar Burrell Smith, who picks up 3 spots very cheaply indeed. Lee Clackett under pressure from Chris Hansen, runs out wide, drops over the crown of the road. Will he lose out into the S's? Yes, he will. That's what I mean about the weird cambers at Clay Pigeon. Down to the hairpin. Hansen has to go narrow to hold off Clackett. Dixon Listener. Harding inside of Darren Teal, and Darren Teal's not had a good couple of laps. And it's Blake, Gallagher, Elliott, Anwar Burrell Smith beginning to stretch and pull clear of Steve Brown, who continues to run in 5th place. This is good points for his championship. Remember, he's 3rd in the championship behind Burrell Smith and Blake. Listener trying to line up Tom Dix, and he's down the inside, but not before Lee Clackett gets Chris Hansen for 11th. And my, did he really screw Chris Hansen there, running him out wide. He loses 2 spots to Listener and Dix, although Clackett's not particularly fast out of the S's, and he's going to have to give it all back up again. Yeah, I think that's what he's done. He's seen that there's a penalty on the horizon. He's let Chris Hansen back through, but at the price of letting through Jonathan Listener and Tom Dix. Lee Clackett clear of Freddie Gallagher, Jay Elliott, Burrell Smith, and it's Burrell Smith picking up the pace now. Obviously that fast lap will help towards his pole position, hopefully, for the trophy final. Ring and Martin side by side again, and the position goes to Ring, but you saw Combe get knocked over there. I think he might pick up a penalty for that one. Down at the hairpin, Tom Dix narrow to hold off Chris Hansen. This is a fight for 12th place now, and you can see the technique for defending at the end of this lap. This circuit is very much 2 halves and almost driven as 2 halves. This is the end of the 2nd section, the long drag to Billy's Blind, and then all these corners here all link up together. The right, the long right that leads into the S's, and Darren Teal and Jack Harding fighting hard. Then there's the long back straight with the conventional over the bump on the brakes into the hairpin, and these 3 corners are all driven as one. So into the horseshoe. Sometimes there's a crisscross on that Darren Teal's trying to make work, but around the right-hander it goes back in Jack Harding's favour, and the short shoot to the last corner is all really driven as one. There's 2 distinct lines through some of these corners, especially in the wet. So Freddie Gallagher has been run down by Jay Elliott and Anwar Burrell Smith. So Jay Elliott looks to the inside, and Gallagher's going to give this one up. He's going to try the crisscross on the exit. Now he has to try and tip in over the top, and he's done it, but Jay Elliott will not be denied. Runs him in deep, and this is opening it up for Anwar to take 2nd place. That's 2 big gifts he's had in this pre-final. Although of course they say you make your own luck. He's had to come from a long way back, so maybe this is only fair. Now the chase is on after Ian Blake. Now the question is, can he run him down in the remaining laps? We're on lap 11 of 15. So 5 laps to go. and the gap is 2.1 seconds. Anwar points the way for Jay Elliott. I think Jay will just be trying to get on his bumper and stay on that bumper as long as he can, because Anwar is going quickly. The field beginning to spread behind. Battle on here though. Jack Harding, Darren Teal, Alex Ring, they're fighting over 7th place. On board with Chris Hansen, trying to find a way back past Jonathan Listener in 11th. Looking to get a good run out of this last corner. You can hear the wind. He's getting the toe. Can he slingshot by? He's setting him up. Here he comes. Now can he hold that inside line to stop the crisscross into the S's? Yes, he can. Chris Hansen moves into 11th place. That's a bit more like it. Well, I can tell you, Anwar was 0.3 of a second faster on that last lap, so he's closing in, but he's running out of time. Harding under pressure from Teal and Alex Ring. The fight for 7th. There's no getting away for Jack Harding. He's going to have to fight this one out with Darren. And Alex Ring is right there, ready to pick up the pieces. Another lap in, and it's another 0.3 of a second that Anwar has taken out of Ian Blake. But the lead is still 1.5 seconds. I just don't think he's going to be able to close in fast enough to be able to run him down before the finish. And it looks as though Jay Elliott's lost the bumper of Anwar as well. So it looks as though he'll be falling into a fight with Freddie Gallagher over 3rd place. Gap then to Brown, Brooks, gap to Harding, breaking clear of Teal and Ring. Closing stages, we're on the penultimate lap. Scott Martin trying to hold off Chris Hansen, who's got away from Jonathan Listener, well, just a little bit. Through the S's. Martin knows he's there, you can hear him, going narrow, showing him the outside. The crisscross perhaps for Hansen. No, Martin stops it at the apex, and that's good enough. He does the same into the horseshoe, and he'll try and hug that inside curb. Doesn't matter how slow this last corner is, it's all about getting a good run into it for a good fast line out. And Jonathan Listener comes back into play. So Scott Martin is playing the percentages, and he's just going to try and hold on to what he's got now. Shows Chris Hansen the outside into the long right-hander, hugging the inside, and that opens up for Jonathan Listener to go through. So one step forward, one step back, and he's back behind Listener once again, and down into 12th place. Martin tries to stop it on the apex, and Hansen is back through. And that's bringing back into play Tom Dix and Lee Clackett. Well, there's no doubt who's won it. Ian Blake wins from Anwar Burrell-Smith. Jay Elliott, Freddie Gallagher, Steve Brown and Matt Brooks finishes 6th. So, first blood to Ian Blake in the championship fight, and he has the psychological advantage of pole position for the trophy final. Anwar Burrell-Smith on the front row with him, Jay Elliott and Darren Teal on row 2, Matt Brooks and Freddie Gallagher on row 3, Lee Clackett and Tom Dix on row 4. Ray Norris and Alex Ring round out the top 10, and of course it's 15 karts once again for the Premier Class trophy final. So, pace kart pulling off, Ian Blake controls the pace. Anwar Burrell-Smith on his outside, he drops the hammer. This is a quick start. Who's going to get into turn 1? It's Ian Blake leading. Burrell-Smith keen to get on his bumper. Doesn't want to be distracted by anybody getting in between him. It's the first time they've been together since the first heat on track together. And he's looking round the outside, and Jay Elliott's half spun. And it's all getting a bit frantic. Darren Teal with his hand up, going to the back of the field. This final will run though, down at the hairpin. Still side by side in the midfield, Steve Brown and Scott Martin. And Brown has got through. Coming round to finish the first full lap. Of course, this isn't the finish line. It's only the start line. That becomes the last corner now. The drag up to the finish line, on board with Tom Dix. We're looking at Lee Clackett in 4th place. He appears to be lining up Matt Brooks. Oh, he's got awfully close and there was a little bit of contact, I think. Brooks runs out wide and a chance for Tom Dix, maybe in the S's, side by side. Clackett was committed, oh, and he almost hits Tom Dix coming back on. Very messy, quite entertaining to watch. Not sure if Lee Clackett is feeling that landing. No suspension in the go-kart beyond the side walls of the tyres, and they're really not designed for that either. So a bit of rally cross for Lee Clackett, still running though. So coming round to finish lap 2, and Ian Blake has got a 1.1 second lead over Anwar Burl-Smith, who's got the best part of a second on Chris Hansen. He's under pressure from Gallagher. Gallagher runs wide and Brooks is back through. Scott Martin elbows his way through in a nice way, in a fair way of course. So narrow down the hairpin, Teal to hold off Harding, and that runs out wide. Steve Brown, who's getting quite a reputation for those round the outside manoeuvres. He's pulled a few this year, some work, some don't, but you've got to admire his spunk. So coming round to finish lap 3, Ian Blake has lost 3/10 on this lap to Anwar Burl-Smith. So we do have a fight on for the lead. We've certainly got a fight on for 3rd as Matt Brooks and Scott Martin force a way past Chris Hansen, 3 wide through the S's. And Freddie Gallagher has suddenly appeared from somewhere back in 3rd place. Blink, and I missed that one. So Gallagher into 3rd as Martin tries to hold off Matt Brooks, Chris Hansen, Darren Teal, Jack Harding. 3 wide in the last corner, and that's put Matt Brooks in the tyres. Jack Harding sticks his nose in where there really wasn't room, and I think he's cannoned Darren Teal into Matt Brooks. So Brooks is on his feet, probably not too pleased with that one. So it's getting a little bit frantic in the midfield here. On board with Dix. Teal forcing a pass. Alex Ring round the outside in the S's. That was impressive. So down the hairpin, a little bit crossed up for Dix. Jonathan Lister trying to find a way past Darren Teal, and he's done it under yellow there, I think round the outside into Horseshoe. Not sure if that'll be allowed to stand if it's been caught by one of the clerks of the course. Moving on to lap 6, and the lead is down to 0.8 of a second, and we've certainly got a race on now. To be fair, Ian Blake has responded. He was only 0.05 of a second slower on that last lap, but visibly you can see that Anwar's getting closer through the S's. Hansen and Harding swapping places over 5th. Great racing at Clay Pigeon, certainly in the sunshine, always guaranteed. Great racing in the dry, that is, not necessarily sunshine. I've been here on one of the coldest summer days that I can ever remember. Occasionally we get fog, but it's always worth the trip. Good night out as well in Dorchester. Well, Ian Blake took a 10th out of Anwar, so the lead is still 0.71 of a second at the line. Tom Dix trying to close in on Darren Teal. Alex Ring in position to strike down at the hairpin. Dix takes a look. Taking the normal racing line in though. Ray Norris ahead of Jonathan Lister. Darren Teal, and this group is coming back together as they begin to fight. We're through half distance. So let's check out the field. Ian Blake leads. It's 0.6 of a second as he loses a little bit of time on Anwar. Freddie Gallagher is 4 seconds off the lead and under pressure from Scott Martin, who's running in deep. Oh, and he's going to try and squeeze through into the S's. Well, not this time. Was that a rehearsal for later on? We'll have to wait and see. Scott's been very good into that corner and certainly on the exit. And Gallagher's doing his best to hold him off down at the hairpin. Darren Teal once again holding off Tom Dix. Dix on his bumper. Teal hitting at those apexes. It can be driven as a double apex, the horseshoe. And certainly you want to be narrow. There's a chance on someone could make a move. Ray Norris Runs out wide out the last corner, and he'll pay for that through Billy's blind, I think. And here we go, Scott Martin. He practiced it the lap before. He's got it done this time, clean as you like. Good move from Scott Martin. He moves through to third place. Now, is Gallagher done? Martin goes in narrow. Now we cut back to Darren Teal, holding off Tom Dix in their fight for 10th place. Once again, narrow line in from Darren. Runs off, that's more like the classic line. Just missing the second apex, you can do that, because the road is going in your favour into the right-hander. So Blake, now what's the gap this time? That didn't look like 0.6 of a second, it isn't. It's down to 0.5 of a second, half a second. It's game on in the race for the lead. And Steve Brown has picked off Chris Hansen. And that is for 6th place. Now, is Hansen going to come straight back at Steve? No. Steve Brown goes to the racing line for the hairpin. He's confident that Hansen won't be able to launch one down the inside. Scott Martin, Freddie Gallagher, Jack Harding fighting over 3rd place. That final step on the podium and a trophy at the end of the day makes the trip worthwhile. Most drivers coming from the southeast. It's a bit of a hike down to Clay Pigeon. It always helps if the weather's nice, of course. And indeed, today we've had some glorious weather for June in England. So back on board, Tom Dix got a good run through the S's, and Darren Teal knows it as well. He goes half a cart width narrow to hold him off. Teal trying to hang on to 10th place. Points in the championship could be crucial at the end of the year. Well, no way through there, no mistakes. Oh, and look at the gap now. Anwar Burrell-Smith is within a cart length of Ian Blake. 0.2 of a second at the line, that's nothing. Down the inside from a long way back, that's a hell of a good move. If he could hold the corner, and he can't, and Tom Dix loses out and is lucky to hang on ahead of Alex Ring. So Ring stays in 12th for now. But we've got a race on for the lead. Ian Blake is leading out Anwar Burrell-Smith. Now Anwar finished 2nd in the pre-final, Ian Blake won it. So that's 3 points that went back in Ian Blake's favour. So the championship lead of Anwar was down to 7 points coming into this final. Right now it would be down to 4 points if the positions remain unchanged. But I can't believe Anwar's not going to have a go for the lead. So unchanged is a temporary state. And it looks as though Tom's lost a little bit of ground on Darren Teal, and he's going down the inside of Ray Norris into the hairpin. Now I did see Ray fiddling with his helmet camera. Now whether or not he's lost it, I can't see it on the side of his helmet. It's flapping over his shoulder. Well, it's good to have onboard footage, but this is the risk. Good he's got his tether on. That's a lesson for anybody carrying cameras. Down the inside, Tom Dix into the right-hander. Now this time can he hold the curve? Yes, he has. He learned his lesson from the previous attempt when he went a long way in and lost out on the crisscross. So coming round to start the final lap, and we've still not seen a manoeuvre for the lead from Anwar. Is he saving it for somewhere on the last lap? Down at the hairpin is possibly the obvious spot, but perhaps that's too obvious. And would you want to leave it that late? Well, it's not going to be into the right-hander or into the S's. Scott Martin's got a couple of cart lengths on Freddie Gallagher, and that just might be enough with the attentions of Jack Harding on Freddie. Down at the hairpin, it's not close enough. And this one looks as though it's going to go the way of Ian Blake. Is it going to be a double for Ian Blake, the reigning champion? Oh, he's run wide out of the horseshoe. Last corner. Now we've seen Anwar make manoeuvres here before. He comes in late, he beats into the apex, and it's a drag race now to the line. And Anwar Burrell-Smith has mugged Ian Blake within sight of the finish, and that's got a chafe a bit on Ian Blake. You can see his disappointment behind. Scott Martin hangs on for an excellent 3rd place ahead of Freddie Gallagher.
So third place today though goes to driver number 5, Scott Martin. And our runner-up today here at Clay Pigeon, our reigning champion, driver number 1, Ian Blake, winning round 5 here at sunny Clay Pigeon, and not only picking up the number 1 trophy, but also the highest finishing baby Brent trophy. So 2 trophies for our winner today in the Premier class, driver number 12, Anwar Beryl Smith. Okay, we're going to have our Premier drivers facing up and give us a big smile for Alex, our photographer, who's been taking some terrific photos this year. Thank you very much. Another ripple of applause.